And it is an honor for me today to welcome our very, very special guest, Gesing and Courtney Chakarun. Gesing is our CEO of eXp Realty. Come on, let's stand up. And Courtney, our CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. Absolutely amazing love, the support. Thank you for being here.
It's the side effect. Good morning, everybody. What a nice surprise this is. I had no idea this was going on, and I was walking. I'm trying to find a bathroom, and I walked down the hall. I see 𝗚𝗿𝗹𝗺 on a poster all over the place. I'm like, what's going on? Just kidding, Michael. Just kidding, Michael.
Are they also in the bathroom, the posters?
Is your mic working?
I think so.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
There we go. Hi.
So, how do you want to?
All right, fireside chat time. And then we'll turn over to a little bit of Q&A. Carlos, do we have any time allotment, or can we just kind of keep rolling? All right, we'll keep rolling then. All right, 2022, Gesing. Yeah. What's going to happen this year?
Well, it's a great fit for us, for our company. I mean, if anybody really, you know, I don't know if who was here with us over the last 3 or 4 days. Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I can tell you that we're starting to see it now. We're starting to see pre-foreclosure listings that are popping on the market, and we're starting to see, you know, Holly Maloney's reaching out to me, reminding me that she ran a company called 3 Blondes in a short sale not too long ago in the past downturn, and it was a national organization. You know, for the last 12 months, we've really been trying to stand up initiatives and programs where we think the business is going to be. So whether that's relocation, REO in a down market, those are 2 programs we put together in the last 12 months, kind of quietly, waiting to see what was going to happen. But I just say to anybody here who is an eXp agent, or if you're an agent who's not with eXp and you're a little bit concerned about the market and how it might impact your business, we have abundant lead sources now in relocation alone, independent of REO. And that includes relocation companies, it includes affinity groups, and I know that even in one instance, I think one of our most abundant lead sources, we're closing at a rate of about 91%. So there's business to be had. You just got to go through the 2-hour certification with Don Conciatori, but that's our relocation program. I'd recommend it to anybody. As for the rest of the year, you know, I think, again, I don't want to say I've looked forward to this, but I have looked forward to this since 2016. And Gene will remember, I mean, we in the board meeting thinking that, you know, we have to make sure that we're the company that people recognize as the one that's safe to go to, the one that's really going to allow you to shed the things that have been weighing you down as a brokerage owner, even in a good market, and focus on what you love to do and grow outside your own borders. And we've got so many examples of that now with brokerage owners and team leaders that have come over and really sort of blown it, knocked it out of the park. I mean, they, you know, outside of their MLS zone, outside of their zip code, outside of their state. And I'm sure there's more than a few people in here that have representatives around the globe as part of the RevShare group, which is wonderful and which was what makes this event this past week so great. So,
right on. You heard it here. So one of the big themes of the last few days has been mindset, right? Getting your head in the right mindset, sharing success. What type of mindset are we going to need for this year?
Well, I think it's sort of, you know, it depends on where you are in the business. If you're really focused on where the business is going to be, you're going to be, I think, relieved, excited about the opportunities. If you really want to grow the company, didn't see an opportunity before, thought you were too late, I think your head's going to be in a great place, you know. I mean, that's something that each of us controls individually. However, you know, I think it could be a harrowing time. I think, you know, as somebody said to me, a dear friend said the other day, you know, agents can be cranky in a down market. So, you know, that could be the case, but we're really trying to send the message, and I think the theme of this event over and over again, you likely heard it from every single person, is that, you know, Glenn started this company, thank goodness, back in 2009 during the global financial crisis, right? I mean, it was economic survival initially in order to set up this way and operate in the metaverse. And, you know, obviously it's turned into something much more than that, much more special. But, you know, we're already starting to see it, and there were some great graphics that were shared on slides this week. You know, I think 𝗚𝗿𝗹𝗺𝗺 did his analysis relative to, you know, the cost for us to process a transaction versus everybody else, and it's like somewhere between 6 and 12 times, or I don't know, the numbers were ridiculous. But the efficiencies, and hopefully everybody's been in the world and they've developed great relationships with people in the world, and they can invite people into the world, whether it's Frame or Verbella. But we really do stand alone. And I would say, you know, one of the things we talked about yesterday, Carlos, in the Icon event was sort of the stock. But, you know, if I'm an Icon agent right now, I'm like jumping for joy. Like I'm backflips, like, you know, $16,000 worth of stock at an $11 price point. Just read the financials. Read our financials, read Realogy's financials, take a look at Redfin, take a look at Compass, take a look at RE/MAX, look at them all, and then take another look at ours. So I think it's a great opportunity.
Okay, well, let's do this. How about some advice for this group? Some advice, growth advice. Where should they focus?
I know mine, right? When I was in college, there were days where maybe I had a little bit too much to drink, you know, the night before class. To me, 99% is showing up. I mean, it really is, you know, and there are going to be days where you don't want to show up. I can remember back 2009 to 2013, you know, I call them the pre-Gene years, you know. I mean, you got knocked down a lot. I mean, all people would say to you is no, and I got really good at hearing no and not being bruised by it. And, you know, I think while there will be agents who will be cranky because their business has to take a dramatic turn and maybe they haven't kept up with it, there will also be pretty cranky consumers. I do think we have some, you know, solutions on our end. One would be express offers. I know there's been a lot of conversation as to whether or not iBuying is going away because Zillow pulled out of it. But, you know, if we start to see people eat through their equity or they start to run out of equity and they need to be in a position to sell, I think that program really starts to stand tall. And I think, you know, having Leo here now, 𝗚𝗿𝗺𝗺𝗺, overseeing affiliated services and lead gen is going to make a huge difference to every single person in this room and every agent who joins us going forward. Yeah.
So I'm going to add to that. I hear showing up, right, is a major theme. I think also, Carlos, you said earlier, asking for help, right? Asking people for help, it takes courage. It's something that you have to do if you really want to be able to get ahead and grow your business. So we're here to help. That's absolutely why we're here. Michael, I know you're here somewhere, right? This is why we're here.
I didn't mean to give my hangover advice, but generally I think what served me best, and one thing I will try and always adhere to, is that there's a reason why we have 2 ears and 1 tongue, right? So I always try to listen more than I speak. Some people will interpret that in different ways. It's not that I don't have thoughts or things to say, but I learn a lot more when I'm listening. And I think that would be true for agents too.
Right on. So I don't want to be stingy and take up all the questions. How about some questions from the audience, if any?
And Carlos, if there was something we touched on yesterday you want to ask about it or have me touch on again, happy to do that.
I just want you, if you don't mind.
There you go, yeah.
Can you go deeper on why we're more resilient than the average brokerage? You've started to talk about expenses, but the way you said it the other day was really, really awesome. You can go a little deeper on that. Why do we see it
articulate the question.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and, if you guys didn't hear the question, it's why are we built for this? Why are we more resilient?
Yeah, so I think about just the United States alone. Forget global. I mean, forget the fact that we opened 22, 23, I can't keep track of any more countries without ever getting on a plane. I mean, that alone is remarkable in and of itself. But if you think about the U.S. alone, Gil, you know, 600 MLSs, give or take, that we're members of. If you look around, any other approach to the business means there's going to be 600 roofs that have rents and camp charges and, you know, all of those things, rent escalation clauses. You're going to have people, 1 person minimum who's going to do onboarding in each of those 600 locations, right? If you're successful, you're probably going to have more than 1. 1 person minimum doing payments, 1 person minimum as tech support. I think it's really hard to find a brokerage that actually offers tech support because, you know, typically it's not something that's built in. You know, the margins don't support it. But the point is, we can provide a really interpersonal, it's definitely interpersonal, otherwise this week would not have been what it was. But we can provide an interpersonal, engaging experience where people know the agents on your team, right? And they can get to know them, get to know their business a little bit. But we do it, you know, across the globe for 82,000 agents with a staff that's smaller than 1,600 people. And that includes tech, and that includes, you know, all of our brokerage ops folks, which is, so those types of savings, not having to have redundancy of role and redundancy of function in each location where we have agents, really is what allows us, provided we can keep building the community, it's what allows us to have revenue sharing, right? Because if we had the traditional cost structure, the business model itself wouldn't be possible. And we've actually seen companies that have tried to start you know, something much like EXP, but they're sort of saddled with these long-term costs. I think HomeSmart came out with something, and, you know, so those are the 2 main efficiencies, and I think what it allows us to do, in addition, like we take the brokerage owner, like yourself, former brokerage owner, right? I mean, you're only going to get so big if you're tied to a locus. Agents will drive to your office maybe 10 miles, 5 miles, maybe 30 miles, depending on where your state is. After that, you've sort of reached your limit. You've reached every agent. Every agent has heard about you. You want to get outside that market, and up until EXP, you had to go and invest big money in another set of franchise rights, or you had to go and hire staff. You had to go learn what the transaction management platform is in, say, Georgia or Alabama, and, you know, what's going to keep your agents there. How are you going to train them? You don't even know what the law is there. You know, there's just a whole lot of upfront risk and burden, financial and otherwise, that's associated with expansion if you're a brokerage owner, and I think we remove that completely. And again, what's nice now 12 years later, we've got so many examples of brokerages that have done just that and that are now, all over in every market that we're in with thousands and thousands of people after starting and coming over with a 19-person independent brokerage as far back as 2013. So I think for brokerage owners, and Glenn was one of these, that's why I go back to 2009, right? He saw it. He saw what was happening. I mean, the revenues weren't coming in. Agents weren't out there doing the deals. Nobody could get financing. Sellers couldn't sell. Yet the fixed costs remained, the rent, the camp charges, all of those staffing roles, all the salary. And so he understood that if he was going to stay in the business, he was going to have to make some really radical changes. Very few people wanted to change with him back in 2009 and 2010. I think this time around, we're going to be able to help a lot of brokerage owners stay in the business who love the business. They love their clients, and they just wanted to love them back a little bit. So if you know those people, we're in a great position to help them. And I say the beautiful thing about the model is that we put every single agent in the company in the exact same position as that brokerage owner without the expense. So I hope that helps.
I'm going to interject for a second here. Talk a little more about the value proposition. How's it enhancing this year?
How is it what?
The value proposition enhancing this year?
Oh, enhanced. Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of things. You're going to see more focus, and you've probably already seen it. I mean, the 𝗚𝗏𝗃 announcement just yesterday or the day before, I mean, there's a real focus on leads at this point, and good quality leads. That's why I shared the thing about the 91% close rate. I mean, who's got lead sources that they're closing at a rate of 91%? Anybody here? Unless you're already in the reload program. I mean, so that's one thing, is really focusing on where the business is going to be. We've actually, I know we didn't make any announcements this past week at shareholders, but we continue to look at the healthcare plans that we're offering for agents and trying to enhance them. And the folks at Clearwater are committed, and they've certainly, they've demonstrated this, that about every 6 months they come out with some new enhancements to the plan, whether that impacts your deductible, lowers it a little bit, lowers your premium, covers a certain kind of care that maybe it didn't cover before. So we'll continue to focus on that. And from an agent attraction standpoint, I would say to you, they're going to, depending on what happens here and how bad things get, there are going to be a lot of people who aren't in the business, but who maybe are the primary subscriber on the family health plan. Right, and so we've had people over the last year who joined the company. I mean, Sean Murphy can tell you this, just on the basis of healthcare alone, right? Because it's just so hard to get. And again, I think today, I don't know what the principal subscribers are. I think about 4,000, but I think in the aggregate, we got 12,000 family members that are being covered by healthcare, and they're getting better healthcare than they ever got before, and saving about $8,000 a year on average. So that's been an enhancement. Certainly, the global expansion has been unprecedented. I mean, I can tell you, Glenn and I used to talk years ago about global expansion, and we used to talk about different industries going into the metaverse and what kind of disruption they could cause. But I never really anticipated. I mean, we launched the UK and Australia, and my gosh, if it took a day, it took like 2 years, it seemed, to get one of those countries up and running, not knowing how it was going to go. And the fact that Michael has been able to come in, he pushed, really. We were going to stop. We weren't going to go into Portugal in 2020. I mean, we had decided that was it. I mean, pull back. We don't know what's going to happen. And Michael was the one that said, don't be a fool. Now's the only time where you're going to have this advantage. And sure enough, what's happened in global is just incredible. And I think we continue to enhance the value proposition in global. For instance, we've been working a lot on teams, which I know for a long time we couldn't bring on board. We're making sure that there's consistency in sort of application of different policies to the greatest extent that we can. I know that we're looking at different, we just brought on Daniela, who you certainly know well, to run global marketing. I mean, immediately, the impact. We're getting people now that you have one conversation and you're like, man, where in the world did this person come from? So I think the global value prop continues to enhance. But if you look at how it has, and maybe Michael shared this, I don't know if you shared the Frame story about Andrew Thompson in South Africa and Dennis and what they've done. But if you go into Frame now, into a frame that Andrew Thompson, who's our manager in South Africa, has created, every agent, well, maybe not every agent, but a number of our agents in South Africa actually have their own booths, almost like vendor booths. And their name is above the booth, and on the wall are their listings. And so if you're a consumer, you can literally go right, and when the consumer lands in the frame, I should point out, the agent gets a text message. So within a matter of seconds, you have a consumer that's standing in front of your listing, clicking on the screen, agent becomes aware of it, and boom, here it goes. So I think Frame's really exciting. In fact, we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago with a really well-known global organization, as respectable as they come in terms of like service and reputation and brand. And they're embarking on a new project where they're going to build some units in different markets around the country. And the first one is pre-shovel. You know, nothing's happened yet. But we did have some conversations about how you might use Frame to allow that person who's prospectively going to purchase a unit in the project to see it even if they're 1,500 or 8,000 miles away. So what was the question again?
I think you covered it, value proposition. All right, any other questions of the audience? I do have an.
I've got one right over here.
Great.
So Jason, we talk a lot about the fact that as owners, we don't just own stock in the real estate part of the company, right? We own stock in EXP, you know, EXPI, in EXP International. And this announcement, the 𝗚𝗍𝗍 announcement that just happened, I'd love for you to expand on that a little bit and what it could mean for the company.
Well, first of all, it means you own 𝗚𝗍𝗍. I think that's the most important thing to know. But I'll do my best here to answer it in a way that I believe Glenn would answer it, which is he's always envisioned EXPRealty.com. Pardon? Sorry?
That wasn't me.
Oh, I think he's always envisioned, you know, EXPRealty.com as a source for leads that we, you know, just sort of generate for our agents. When you want to start thinking about providing good leads to others, I know we've had conversations just about, you know, how could we become an MLS in certain countries, like Michael's all over that. But I think with 𝗚𝗍𝗍, you know, first of all, they've already got clientele, right? They've already got business that they have. And I think it creates an opportunity for there to be a portal that's not branded as EXP. And then, you know, once we have that, and if it's effective and it's competitive and it's driving a lot of traffic, it just creates a whole lot of options, the details of which we're probably not even aware of at this point. But for me, the biggest thing is that everybody in the room who's part of EXP now owns a part of 𝗚𝗍𝗍, just as they own a part of 𝗚𝗍𝗍.
Others?
Hello, yes. Good morning, Sir Jason. Thank you for your time.
Good morning.
Since we are talking global thing here, is there a chance or opportunity for us to have our listings also to be a global?
I'm going to let Michael answer that one. I know it's something that we've heard a lot. I know it's something he's focused on. I'll defer to him. Michael, I don't know if you want to say anything on it now or you just want to wait, but.
No, I'm happy to answer that one. So we are actually now integrating all of our global data into one spot, which will be EXPRealty.com. So right now, all of our global, yeah, you can applaud that. All of our global agents will now all be displayed there. Showcase IDX is working on heat maps to show where agents are all over the world. We're also working, keep going, applaud. We're also working on a global referral system that will be the next step from there. So yes is the short answer.
Hey, one final question for you guys. Obviously, this company has allowed us to build communities, to build families. What do you see as the role of organizations like the Global Alliance and others playing into, and why does it make such a big difference in the other models that don't have that kind of framework?
Yeah, so, you know, first of all, the successful sponsor is the sponsor that remains engaged, you know, with the people they bring on board. You know, people will leave if you, I remember the first person that opened Canada for us in Ontario. I mean, the amount of work that it takes to go through the Real Estate Council of Ontario and get licensed, I mean, it's painstaking. I went through that whole thing. But the person who brought the leader in Ontario initially basically, you know, deposited them and walked away. And so we ended up shutting down and then having to reopen the province. So there's no question that, you know, from my perspective at least, that sponsorship is a long-term engagement. And, you know, if I look at the groups that have succeeded well, you know, they've been groups that have been able to marshal and really aggregate and harness the various talents among those team members. And I think the Global Alliance is a great example of that. I mean, if I think about some of the, you know, folks that are members of the group, I mean, they all have, you know, there's a lot of commonality, but there's also a lot of different skill sets that exist. And I think, you know, the thing we always want to keep an eye on, whether it's the Global Alliance or some other group, you know, is that ultimately, you know, the whole idea of agent ownership is the one that you've got to keep coming back to, right? You've got to keep coming back to, because every once in a while it's inconvenient. Right? It's inconvenient because you may be talking to somebody who's really going to make a difference in the company and make a difference, you know, for one of the people in your group or yourself, and then you're aware that somebody else maybe was or predates, and I don't want to get into that whole thing. You know, that's not a fun topic to talk about, but you just always have, you wear two hats in this company. The first is your agent hat, right? And when you have your agent hat on and you say, okay, there's a $16,000 cap, and then we go to a $250 transaction fee, you know, the agent hat might say, well, that's not 100%. That's 100% less $250. The shareholder, you put your shareholder hat on and you say, why in the world would I ever want the company not to make enough money to cover their costs on a transaction, right? So, anyway.
So some parting thoughts, really quickly.
Yeah,
Jeff,
I
nope,
mean,
I'm going to
not-
say something first.
You know,
is that all right?
Pardon?
If I talk first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
So, yes. Is that all right, though? So I think it's nice to wrap with a moment of being thoughtful. Being in the minute is important. Being in the moment is important. I just want to say that I'm thankful to be here with all of you in this entire week. Everyone's safe, sound, and together. What are you thankful for?
This is one of the 2 best weeks of the year for me, and has been now. This is the 26th time, I guess we've done one of these, and I will miss everybody that I had a chance to see for the next however many months. But look, like it's actually a pretty condensed time frame, right? Because we're in June and EXPCon. So I would say you guys, I mean, the amount you're investing emotionally, financially into this company, don't think otherwise. We understand that it takes money to put together an event like this, right? And that every time you host a luncheon, you're making an investment. And our job, you know, in addition to protecting your shareholder interest and making sure you know just what it is that you own, is to make sure that, you know, we're really delivering for you guys and really exceeding the expectation. And just keep having your events and you know, invite us. I mean, we actually, now that we can go and be places now, it's really a lot of fun. And thank you all so much for being at this event. Thank you for supporting the group, the Global Alliance, and thank you for supporting EXP. And I can't wait to see you soon. So thank you, Carter.
People